What's going on, everyone? This is Colin with the Music City Accelerator course. I'm here inside the Music City Star Factory to deliver you guys another lesson. Today I want to talk about making digital sounds more analog and doing that with audio rate modulation. So what does that mean? So if I jump into Serum 2 here, you can see that we can maybe modulate something like the volume of this oscillator. Right? And then we can go really fast. And we just go so fast that we get to this setting called fast, which isn't all that helpful. But if I go into hertz, we can actually modulate faster than our sample rate. And that can create a lot of really interesting interpolation within the amplitude, which almost gives us these different pitches or tones. Instead of modulating the amplitude, we can actually do it to the coarse pitch and get a completely different timbre onto our sawtooth. That sound would commonly be called something like a Euro lead or a Euro siren. And it's just really a fun way to detune the saw, even though we only have one voice that's playing at a time. And this is a very quick way to create this unison effect without actually doing any true unison. Another way that we could achieve this is by duplicating this exact LFO, changing the rate just a little bit, adding another saw, and then changing one saw to be only the left and one saw to only be the right. And then to match the settings here within the matrix. So 2% here, it's about right here. You can see a little bit different between each one. I'll try and aim to get close to 1.3 and then maybe change the output as well. And now we're getting a very stereo version of the saw, because we're getting two detune profiles in each ear. I can also attach these to a macro and set these back to 0 and then have the macro do opposite moves on the pan. So we can decide exactly how mono or stereo we want this to be. We can even duplicate this LFO a third time and just kind of tweak the hertz a little bit and then just have one version that's always stereo. And I'll go ahead and match the settings one more time. And now we have a version that's always in the center, even if our two stereo versions are a little bit different. Doing audio rate modulation is going to mean that every note has a slightly different timbre and just kind of sums a little bit of a different way. So it's really cool to get some delay, and I'm going to run this delay in parallel, actually. Turn it all the way up, add a little bit of feedback, and then do, I believe these are dotted eighth notes or dotted quarter notes. And then I'm going to smooth out that delay just a little bit with Valhalla Room. So this is all great, but what if you want different flavors or different way to do audio rate modulation? Well, you can actually use the amplitude of each oscillator to modulate whatever you want within Serum. So let's check that out. I'm actually just going to get rid of everything except for our mono saw. And for right now, I'm going to kill the macro. And right now I'm going to kill LFO3, which is doing the pitching. So we're right back to a regular saw. I'm going to program a little bit of white noise. We are welcome to make it stereo, and I'm gonna turn that white noise off, and we'll turn off our time effects as well for the meantime. And then I'm just gonna grab this noise window or box right up here and drag it onto the coarse pitch of our saw. And now we're getting a randomized audio rate pitching on the saw, which is so crazy. And this reminds me so much of the noise detune mode within Ableton's wavetable. It's essentially using the same method to make this style of detune without adding the voices like wavetable does. Let's go ahead and add a filter, and then I'll also make the filter do a little plucks. So maybe I'll choose one of the ladder filters, get a filter with a little bit more tone and energy to it versus just a, perfectly linear filter, which is like what would be one of these, high or low filters here. And maybe even go up on the smooth. And And this filter still just isn't cutting it for me. It's not creating enough tone that I would like it to derive from the sound. So I'm actually gonna take this noise and throw this onto the filter cutoff as well. Real quick, I'm gonna do a classic move of mine, which is to add a macro to the filter cutoff so that as I open this macro, it opens up the filter, as well as to the delay of the sound. So we get this very euphoric trance build and energy, and it gets noisy, and we get more high end that comes through and more decay, so it just becomes, you know, greater and larger and grander. You'll hear exactly what I mean. You can even go as far as to run, you know, your sawtooth through a tube distortion just within the oscillator effects right here. And then also go ahead and attach that noise to that right there. I'm gonna add a little bit of chorus because it kind of adds that wateriness detune effect. As well as a little bit of multiband compression. And if you notice that the multiband compression is really attacking your sound, which is this, you know, classic OTT sound, you can actually dial back the threshold, and that's gonna really bring back the ceilings and also bring back the amount that we're pushing into this compressor. And I kind of just want to put that threshold in a place where the sound is just getting a pretty smooth hug. Keep in mind, all of these effects are done without using the classic detune, which I think most people would see this and want to flick this on immediately. I think that a little bit of hyperdimension kind of adds a little bit of a intrigue feel to this sound. It just gives it a little more space. A beautiful feature which comes within the new Serum is actually this note on discrete. And basically what this does is that every single time that this plays or hits, it's going to give us a random value on the macro. So I've gone ahead and attached this to the pan of our sawtooth, and you can see that every single time a note hits, we get a different value on the pan. And I really, really love to put this actually on the wavetable, especially if we're in basic shapes. And I'm going to go ahead, make sure that's unipolar, and that randomness isn't going so far into the shapes that I don't care for, because there's some shapes down here, like these kind of variations on a square tooth, that I don't really care for. So I just want to make sure that we're only hitting the square. And why not do the note on discrete for the very thing that's modulating so many things within our track? So I'm going to go ahead and actually throw this onto the filter of our noise as well, so that we can get different noises for every single note that hits. That seems a little intense at first, so maybe I'll dial that back right here. I'm going to throw Goldfoss on to do a little bit of tame and recovery on this, as well as to brighten up kind of the high end a little bit more. And then I just want to make some quick automations here. And actually, if I take this entire automation right here and I grab one of these automation hooks, I'm actually able to ramp the automation so that as time goes on, each of these little triangle waves that are controlling the macro, which control the decay and the filter on the sound, each one goes a little bit further and further and further into a more intense state. I just think some of those noise automations were a little bit crazy, so I'm just, the matrix in here, I'm kind of dialing everything back to taste. This last 8-bar section of automation, I actually am going to bring it up like this, so that we're kind of getting more of that floor information to come out a little bit more. The last thing I'm really, really bothered about is how much noise is still kind of coming through, even when there's quieter moments on the filter. So there's two ways to tackle this. One way is to actually just go ahead and bring back the noise on the filter, the noise automation on the filter. But we can actually go ahead and add a filter in post here. And I might just attach this to macro 1. And then I'm super cool with the idea of actually just letting this completely ride at the top here once we get to this point. So the problem with doing this normally in Ableton is that, let's say I get white noise that I want to be the envelope control. I go ahead, grab an envelope follower and put it after my white noise. And I can just go ahead and say, I want a random hit on every single noise here. Let's do as much noise as we can and turn up the gain. You'll see here that even on our envelope follower, we're not getting the little nuances or the audio rate details that we get out of Serum where every single amplitude is being accounted for. We're getting this very smooth, average kind of slope for each hit. And even if I turn our amplitude to sustain, you'll see we're just not modulating at a level that Serum can do. So I think Serum is really going to be our best option when it comes to getting these lush sounds exactly like this. So there you have it, guys. That's how you make your synthesizer sound super analog. There's always going to be a million more methods to do it, but I think that the audio rate method is one of the best ways to get this pitching out of your Serum software synth that you wouldn't normally get out of most other tools given to you, even by Ableton. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you're interested in continued education, check out our Music City Accelerator program, and I hope you found this video helpful today. Thank you much, and goodbye.